Okay, let's try this again. This is day 3, the results of the fall. So, quick recap. Creation, yay. Adam and Eve, sort of yay. Adam and Eve ate the apple. Ooh, bad news, bad news, bad news. They were deceived by Satan. Yes, they were. That created the fall. This created the broken world that we live in. Here we are. So God's walking through the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve are hiding. They have made some clothes out of some fig leaves because now that they know that they're naked, they want to cover all their private bits, right? So God is walking through the garden and he asks, where are you? So this is God. He's not asking, where are you? Like, where are you physically located? He knows where they are. He's God. He's asking them basically, like, where is your heart? You've sinned. What has happened? So they come out, and then it starts a whole, well, the serpent made me do it, and she made me do it, but you gave her to me, so this is kind of your fault kind of thing. Nobody is willing to take responsibility for their own actions. Any of this sound familiar? Anybody? Because I know that I am 100% guilty of the same thing. It is so much easier for me to blame somebody else than it is for me to take responsibility. But here we are. So, Genesis 13:15. This, so great. So, you know how when you give your kid a toy or an iPhone or a really nice pair of shoes, and you know that they're going to screw it up and you know that they're going to mess it up? So this is basically God. He knew that we were going to screw up because he gave us free will. He knew that we were going to mess up this bright, shiny new world that he gave us. So in all of his love and infinite, glorious wisdom and all of his sovereignty, he already had a plan. And so this is Genesis 3:15. This is what is known as the first good news. This is the first thing that is talked about, the coming of Jesus. So it says, I will put enemy, I don't know how to say that word, enmity, whatever, between you and the woman, and between your offspring and her offspring. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. So he is capitalized. He meaning Jesus. This is the first foretelling of the coming of Jesus, that Satan will be defeated right there in the very beginning. We literally just got the world, already screwed it up. Let's see what else. Okay, so the next little part talks about Cain and Abel. Cain and Abel are brothers. This is the first murder that occurs in the Bible. Little tidbit that you might not know. Cain, as you're reading through the Bible, you pick up on this, but Cain worked the fields. Abel worked the livestock or animals or whatever. Cain presented an offering to the Lord. Abel also presented an offering to the Lord. Cain's offering was rejected, not because his harvest wasn't good enough. It was because of the state of his heart. Cain had sin in his heart. So it doesn't matter what we do on the outside, what we present on the outside. It doesn't matter what we come to God with if the state of our heart isn't right. Yeah, that was a kick in the teeth for me too the first time I read it. So God basically says, dude, you can't kill your brother. What have you done? You're going to be punished. Cain starts whining like a little girl and says, I'm going to be tortured and killed because of what I've done. And God said, okay, I won't let anybody kill you, but you're still gone. So he loves us enough to discipline us like a parent disciplines a child, but he doesn't let our sin go unpunished. So you'll notice throughout the entire Bible, if you acknowledge it and you come to him and you give it to him and you say, I'm sorry, and you genuinely are sorry about it, he forgives and you just move on. But if you don't and you make excuses and you continue to do the things that you always done without any change, then you're going to be punished. He loves you, but that's just the way that it is. So then chapter 5 basically is all about genealogy. There is a lot there. It's very important. The genealogy in the Bible is very important. I have a tendency to kind of skim through it, but you can trace the genealogy from Jesus all the way back to Adam. And it's really cool when you read these stories in the Bible. When you start to put it all together, you go, oh, that's why Jesus' great grandmother was a prostitute. But God uses those people for a reason. So anyway, it's really neat. Don't skip over the genealogy. It's important. So we're going to move on to chapter 6. This is page 24 in your book. The Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and every intention and the thoughts of his heart was only evil, continually. And the Lord regretted that he had made man on earth, and it grieved him to his heart. So the Lord said, I will blot out man, whom I have created from the face of the land, and the animals, and creeping things, and the birds of the heavens, for I am sorry that I have made them. But Noah found favor with the Lord. God bless Noah, our first little Bible hero. Noah's amazing. So what I want to tell you is Genesis 6:3. This is something that is kind of interesting. Noah said, the Lord says, my spirit will not remain with mankind forever because they are corrupt. Their days will be numbered to 120 years. So a lot of people think that God put a lifespan limit on our life, that we can't live more than 120 years in a lifespan. But another theory is that God was putting a limit on humanity, period. This is when he decided that he was going to flood the earth. And when he told Noah about it, Noah was around 500 years old. The ark was not finished until Noah was over 600 years old. So there's what takes place in the Bible. As you're reading it, you're thinking that it's just happening like this. There could be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years span in between what you're reading to what happens next. So just keep that in mind whenever you're reading. So that brings us into the flood, day 4. So Genesis 6:9 talks about Noah being a righteous man and he was blameless. So in all of the people in all of the world, Noah was the only person who was righteous. He was the only one who found favor in the sight of the Lord. Now, this is a man who had no mentor, no one to look up to, no one to talk about God with, because there was no one like him. There was no one who had faith in the Lord like he did. Not one single person in the entire world was worth saving. But Noah, not even Noah's wife. She was saved because of Noah's faith. Noah's children were saved because of Noah's faith. They weren't found righteous in the eyes of the Lord, just Noah. So that was pretty intense when I read that. So it rained 40 days, 40 nights. We know that. God breathed his breath across the earth and it started to dry up, but it took 150 days. And the first thing that they did when they got off the boat was they built an altar to the Lord. Okay, sorry, I got a phone call. So anyway, they got off the boat, they built an altar, and they made a sacrifice to God, and he liked it. So the sacrifice is a symbol of atonement to the reconciliation between God and humankind, ultimately accomplished through Jesus Christ, like we talked about earlier. So the next little part, it says, look back a few chapters at Genesis 3:21. What was the first sacrifice made and who made it? That was the one that God made when he made the clothes for Adam and Eve. And that tells you why the animal sacrifices were necessary at the time. God told Noah, go forth, be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth. Yay, fun stuff. And then in Genesis 9:13, God talks about his commitment. So God made a covenant with Noah, and a covenant, it wasn't just a yeah, I'm going to do this. A covenant with God is a big deal. It is a promise from God that I'm going to take care of you, and I'm going to do these things not because of what you're going to do for me, but just because of who I am and my nature. So God is telling Noah, I'm never going to do that again. I'm never going to flood the earth again. And the way that he does that is he says, I have placed my bow in the clouds, and it will be a sign for the covenant between me and the earth. Whenever I form clouds over the earth and the bow appears in the clouds, I will remember my covenant between me and you and all the living creatures. Water will never again become a flood to destroy every creature. The bow will be in the clouds, and I will look at it and remember the everlasting covenant between God and all the living creatures on the earth. This is a sign of the covenant that I have confirmed between me and every living creature on earth. So the rainbow, you will never ever look at it the same. That is a sign of God's covenant that he made with us to never again flood the earth and kill us all out. So that was really cool. I love God's covenants. He keeps all of his promises. He is always faithful, regardless of whether we deserve it or not. So that's pretty neat. Okay, moving into day 5. This talks about Job and the Tower of Babel. So Job was a cool dude. He loved Jesus, loved God. He had it made. He had a great home. He had all of the livestock, the money, the family, everything was going great. God was, I don't know if they sit around and just talk. I mean, I don't know how this works and whatever. But God was just, my man Job. He is so great and he loves me so much. And Satan said, yeah, he does. But he probably wouldn't love you if you took all that stuff away from him. And God said, challenge accepted. So Job is a very hard book of the Bible to read. Everything that Job has is stripped away from him. Everything but his life and the life of his wife. Everything is taken away from him. All 10 of his children die. His livestock, like his land, everything is completely wiped out. And he still loves the Lord. He is faithful in his suffering, and he praises God in his suffering. Like, he's sitting there eating dinner, and one of his servants comes in and says, all of your children are dead, all of them. And he praises God. I got nothing. Like, I got nothing. That's Job's the man. Job does get a little testy kind of towards the end of the chapter, and for 2 whole chapters, God kind of gives him the what for, and that is also kind of toe curling and hard to read. I encourage you to read Job. It will make you feel a whole lot better about whatever you have going on, and will literally humble you beyond belief. So go read Job. That is something to see. So then we go on to chapter 11 in Genesis. The whole earth had the same language. Everybody understood each other. There wasn't all these different dialects of English or Spanish. I mean, this is the Middle East. Okay, so this is not modern day Texas. This all takes place in the Middle East. People are getting cocky again. I don't know how many years it's been since the flood, but they're starting to get a little cocky again. So they get together and they come up with this plan that they're going to build a tower so they have access to God. Because in their minds, if I build a tower, I can go up there and I can be on the same level as God. This was for self-glorification. It was, they thought that they were as good as God is. So they wanted to have access to him. So in the Bible, it actually says that God went down to see their little tower, which was kind of a jab at the people that, you know, you can build a tower as high as you want, but you're still never going to be on my playing field, kind of thing. So God destroys the tower and takes the people and scatters them all over the earth. And he distorts their language, so now they can't understand each other. So that's why we have the language, the different languages that we have, and the different nationalities and all of that different stuff, is because the people got together and they got cocky, and the Lord saw that the people were getting to be the way they were before. And instead of destroying the earth, he said, I'm going to fix this. And he scattered us all over the place. So that's how we got the Tower of Babel. And then she does a little, put the following events in the order for your notes. And if you had to summarize the main storyline of Genesis, what would it be? Well, let's see. If I had to summarize the main storyline of Genesis, I would say that we're pretty dumb. We are not smart. We don't obey God's law, and we don't listen, and free will. Almost wish he didn't give it to us, but he did. God gave us free will because he wants us to follow him with our heart, and he wants us to do it willingly. And he says, not that we can't do things, but he gives us the consequences of those actions. And sometimes we do it anyway because we're just not smart. But I think we're getting there. We'll see. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed week 1. These videos are very difficult to make, so please bear with me. This takes a lot of time and preparation on my part, so I will do my very best to give you guys all the information that I can think of that is neat, that you might not find in Seamless, or you might not know when you're reading your chapters, but read the chapters. It's important. That's the whole point of this, is for you to be in the Word and to get closer to God. Some of it is a lot of reading, but it's worth it. So anyway, I'll see you guys next week. Talk to you later. Bye.